you guys know that we have Aaron in our office today, a very special guest. He's basically from Hong Kong, and a bit of bio about him. I'm sure you've seen it in that email, but just resharing. He's actually an award-winning motivational speaker, three-time author, and Hong Kong's best-selling author of Unstuck, which is his recent book. And it has known to be one of the books that has been ranked among the top best-selling books in Hong Kong last year. So today's topic, I think you guys have seen it, but it's on the power of positive habits and inner dialogue. Just to elaborate what it means, basically it's about overcoming your self-limitation and then becoming your best self. It's the thought of having a positive mindset without listening to the situation. You don't want to make prediction that before I'm going into a meeting or I'm hearing some stuff, it's going to be negative. Because if that happens, everything will be negative. So here we're talking about positive mindset. So I actually went to his website and I actually saw one of the phrases that I found motivational myself. So as Aaron said on his website, change your mindset, your world will changes. Build your system, put in the work, your flywheel turns on. Invest in positive habits consistently, your life changes. So I'll pass on the floor to Aaron and then he'll begin his session.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. A very warm welcome for your generosity and really taking your time out to listen to the presentation. So grateful to see all of you. There used to be a chef. This chef got handed over a homemade recipe, and the recipe was to cook a pastel. I guess everyone knows what pastel is, right? Pastel is actually one of my favorite dishes. So he has this perfect recipe, and he's been cooking all his life. His family members enjoyed it. And he started going to restaurants and started getting requests from customers asking him to change this ingredient and change that ingredient. He got lost in the process. And the way he found clarity was when he went home one day and he looked at the recipe that his mom has given him. And by going back to his childhood self, he actually recalls what he was meant to do and what he was meant to cook. He stopped cooking for other people based on their requests and really started following his dream, following his passion. And eventually, he became his master chef at his own restaurant. I think it pretty much summarizes my journey. The reason why I wrote this book, and I put that in a subtitle, Think Like a Kid and Free Your Mind, was really because the way that I found clarity was really through revisiting my inner child, what we were born for. And for those who have lived through COVID, and hopefully you have not lost any loved ones in the last few years. I never thought our generation would see something like that. I just thought our generation is quite lucky. We have most things that we have wanted. But it was through this childlike lens, it really taught me how to live again. We've been lucky to work with some customers, including yourself. So we've actually spoken with the Hong Kong team, and Thailand is actually our second office that we're speaking to. Hopefully there'll be many more to come. When I look through my life, I just turned 40, and 4 years ago when I had a conversation with a very successful business leader, and I told him that I wanted to become a self-help author and I wanted to become a motivational speaker. And I remember his response was like, Aaron, you didn't lose a limb. No one's going to listen to you. You're not going to be successful. And this world only cares about money and real estate. 5 years later, I realized that I was talking to the wrong person. The person that I was talking to was highly motivated. He was very curious. And the lesson that I learned there was that I think every one of us is one conversation from living a different future. Every time we have a rejection, whether it's from our customer, from our client, maybe you're picking up a call, try to call up a candidate and they reject your job offer, and you try to ring up your employer and they said they're cutting budget, they're no longer hiring. You might feel very disappointed in that particular moment, but that also means that you are one step closer to finding your dream customer. There are 8 billion people in this world. I spent 18 months working in the call center, and that was probably one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned. Every time you get a rejection, it's actually not about you. When I was working at the call center, people would slam their phone and they would swear at the customer, and I used to do that too. It's like, how did they say that to me? It's so mean, it's so personal. I had things like, go back to your country, because I work in the call center in Sydney, and people could tell from my accent that I'm not native and I'm not from there. But I never felt discouraged by it. For some reason, I was motivated by those rejections. It just means that they are not the right types of people that I'm trying to talk to, try to forget about it, reframe it, and hopefully we'll go through some tools that can help you reframe your mindset today. And these are also the techniques and frameworks that have helped me transform my life. I actually used to make bubble tea drinks and used to be a very successful Taiwanese bubble tea shop in Sydney. And the reason why I applied for that job was because I was very shy as a child, and I purposely picked the jobs that would build my confidence, have a chat with strangers, be able to stand in front of you. It landed me into Microsoft, and it was the same approach that I used for the first company that I worked for, and we helped them increase their gross profit by 200 times. I started writing with no experience, and I used to sweat and stutter. I remember I was actually an actuary dropout. And in my first year of uni, I had three choices. I could choose between law, a doctorate degree, or actuary. And I didn't choose the first two because I thought they were too long. Doctors is going to take me 6 years, and law is going to take me another 7 years. And I thought, I was so eager to go out there and just start making money, and I chose actuary, and I suffered for it. And after the first year, I actually made a pivot, and I changed my major. I changed it to marketing and management. And that was just one of the photos that we spoke at the book launch in Hong Kong. I kind of want to give you a different narrative about why I do what I do. And I think so far, what you've heard, sunshine and rainbow, and as most of you know already, life isn't very much about that. And that's actually one of my favorite quotes from Rocky Balboa. Life is not about, how hard you get hit. Life is about how hard you get hit, but be able to stand up after the fight. So I'm in this line of work because I realized that I was actually one of the people who needed inspiration and motivation the most. The picture that you see here is how I would draw from our childhood. So as part of the second family, I was the elder brother. I had 4 other half-brothers and half-sisters. And growing up was a journey of figuring out where I fit in and whether my dad actually felt ashamed of me. And to quote you an example, so Chinese New Year is a big festive season, but those days my Chinese New Year was like, where's daddy? Where is dad? And sometimes my mom wouldn't have the answer. And slowly I realized that all these half brothers and half sisters that I have, they are very successful. They all went to top schools. But because of what was happening back home, and my mom and dad were having a lot of conflicts, and I just became this very quiet boy. And I would avoid conflicts, I would avoid communication, and naturally I just became an introvert. Not like the person that you're seeing today. At high school, there was one sporting event, and I was competing. I was about to do a long jump, ready at the starting line. I was about to make that sprint, and all of a sudden I heard a very loud roaring noise in the background. I went to 3 different high schools in Hong Kong. And I told you about what was happening back home, so that didn't make me a very confident speaker. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to make friends. Whenever I said things, they would come out wrong. I just suck at relationship. And when I went to the second high school, that thing happened. I was booed by, it felt like 1,000 people in the spectator audience. I went home that day with 3 gold medals, and I showed it to my parents, but I never told them about what actually happened in the sports ground, which actually upset me a lot, and I wasn't happy that day. When I went to Australia, I thought I was doing well in Hong Kong, and when I was asked to share an idea and do impromptu speaking in front of class, you would see my face. I was just hopeless. I would turn purple, I would sweat. You can see on my stress. I think people usually feel sorry for how nervous I got. And most recently, I also had a couple of health scares. And I wasn't making a funny face here. This was actually a news report that was done by a local newspaper, South China Morning Post. So I had 2 health scares in my life, and it wasn't chronic, but what I had was called a Bell's palsy, so I had facial paralysis, so you can actually see I actually couldn't move half my face. And the first time took about 3 months to recover, and second time took about 6 to 7 months to recover. That threw me into a very dark space. The first time I got it, I was 19. It was my first time that I ever went into a bookstore in Sydney, and I picked up a self-help book. And the self-help book that I picked up was called Tuesdays with Maury. If you guys are looking for a great self-help book, I strongly suggest this book. It was about a series of life lessons between a student and a professor that is about to pass away. And then fast forward, I was in a rat race, trying to climb the corporate ladder, making big bucks, and I think by societal standards, that was the manual that I got given from the previous generation. You gotta climb up the ladder, make good money, make good title, and get a house, get married, have kids. And that was the path that I followed, and until this happened. So what you just saw happened back in 2019, April 7th. I just became a father. I was married, and I was a happy father, and I thought I was ready for life. And the next thing I know was my older son, this is Finn. He survived, he's alive today, but he suffocated in my arms for 5 minutes to a point that I actually thought he died. And right after that, I only remember feeling a series of negative emotions, meaning fear. For about half a year, I was not able to get a good sleep. Every night I was sticking a finger under his nose, making sure that he's breathing. I was feeling a lot of guilt Did I actually cause this suffocation? And also a lot of shame. I felt like at that point I wasn't living the person that I was showing up, that I was trying to teach my son. And that put me in a very different journey. I had to find comfort in discomfort. Like all of those experiences, whether it is my son's suffocation or getting bullied in high school or witnessing how my parents fought and how the relationship sort of fell apart, how hurt I was, but not being able to say anything. And I hope some of these experiences resonate with you, because I don't think any of my experiences are that special. And I think in life we all go through these up and downs moments. And sometimes you will feel isolated. Sometimes you will feel that you're the only person and no one gets you. But it is in this vulnerable moment, it is the positive habit and also how you talk to yourself that's going to pull yourself up. And hopefully you'll be inspired by today's discussion, and there'll be some tools to help you whenever you face challenges in life that you needed that extra boost.